South Korea and Japan have led condemnation of North Korea's launch of a long-range missile that landed off Japan's coast and prompted speculation that the regime is close to perfecting the technology needed to send a missile to the mainland United States. The late-night launch, which triggered a South Korean test launch in response, reignited tensions in the region after a lull of more than 2 months. It was North Korea's 20th launch of a ballistic missile this year, and possibly its third successful test of an intercontinental ballistic missile following 2 launches in July. Moon Jae-in, the South Korean president, voiced concern that the North's perfection of an ICBM would send regional security spiraling out of control, and lead the U.S. to consider launching a preemptive strike. Wednesday morning's launch adds to fears that the North will soon have a military arsenal that can viably target the U.S. mainland. Japan's Prime Minister, Shinzo Abe, condemned the missile launch as intolerable, and called for an emergency meeting of the UN Security Council. Within hours of the test, Abe and Donald Trump agreed to strengthen their defense capability and to urge China, North Korea's main ally, to apply more pressure on Pyongyang over its weapons program. "We will never give in to provocative acts by North Korea," Abe said, adding that the international community would put maximum pressure on North Korea. He said Japan had lodged a strong protest with the regime, which he accused of ignoring other nations' united, strong will for a peaceful solution. He added, "The international community needs to work in unison to implement sanctions." The Pentagon issued a statement saying that the weapon tested was an intercontinental ballistic missile ICBM. Initial reports from Seoul suggested that it came from a mobile launcher and was fired at about 3 a.m. local time. The missile was reported to have flown for 50 minutes on a very high trajectory, reaching 4,500 kilometers above the Earth, more than 10 times higher than the orbit of NASA's International Space Station, before coming down nearly 1,000 kilometers from the launch site off the west coast of Japan. This would make it the most powerful of the 3 ICBMs North Korea has tested so far. David Wright, a physicist and missile expert at the Union of Concerned Scientists, calculated that on a normal trajectory, rather than a high-lofted one, the missile would have a range of 13,000 kilometers, enough to reach Washington, the rest of the U.S. West Coast, Europe or Australia. Furthermore, the mobile night launch appeared aimed at testing new capabilities and demonstrating that Pyongyang would be able to strike back after any attempt at a preventative strike against the regime. It went higher, frankly, than any previous shot they've taken. James Mattis, the U.S. Defense Secretary, told reporters. It's a research and development effort on their part to continue building ballistic missiles that can threaten anywhere in the world. Mattis added the North Korean missile program threatens world peace, regional peace and certainly the United States. President Trump, who had insisted that North Korean development of an ICBM would not happen during his presidency, said, "We will take care of it. It is a situation that we will handle." The missile was launched from Seonni, North Korea, and traveled about 1,000 kilometers before splashing down in the Sea of Japan, within Japan's economic exclusion zone. "We are working with our interagency partners on a more detailed assessment of the launch," Pentagon spokesman Colonel Robert Manning said. Within minutes of the launch, the South Korean Joint Chiefs of Staff announced Seoul had carried out an exercise involving the launch of a precision strike missile, signaling that it was primed to respond immediately to any attack from the north. Manning said, "The North American Aerospace Defense Command determined the missile launch from North Korea did not pose a threat to North America, our territories or our allies." Rex Tillerson, the U.S. Secretary of State, condemned the launch and added, "Diplomatic options remain viable and open, for now. The United States remains committed to finding a peaceful path to denuclearization and to ending belligerent actions by North Korea." It was the first North Korean ballistic missile test since the 15th of September and followed a warning earlier this month from Donald Trump that North Korean threats to strike the U.S. and its allies would be a fatal miscalculation. This is a very different administration than the United States has had in the past. "Do not underestimate us. And do not try us," said Trump, in a speech to the South Korean National Assembly. The launch also marked a rebuff to Russia, which had claimed the previous day that the pause in missile launches suggested that Pyongyang was ready to defuse tensions in line with a proposal from Moscow and Beijing that North Korea could freeze missile and nuclear tests in exchange for a scaling down of US and allied military exercises. I think North Korea's restraint for the past 2 months is within the simultaneous freeze roadmap, said Igor Morgulov, the deputy Russian foreign minister, speaking to reporters in Seoul on Monday. Mira Rafupa, an expert on Asia-Pacific security at Yale Law School and the Center for a New American Security, said that the night launch matters because that's when they launch under operational conditions. The mobile launcher matters because it means their missile capability is increasingly survivable. We can't threaten to take out a missile on a launch pad if there is no launch pad and we don't know where it's coming from. Abe told reporters, "We will never give in to provocative acts by North Korea," adding that the international community would put maximum pressure on North Korea to abandon its ballistic missile and nuclear weapons program. Abe said Japan had lodged a strong protest with the regime in Pyongyang, which he accused of ignoring other countries' united, strong will for a peaceful solution. He added, "The international community needs to work in unison to implement sanctions."